think Nazi soldiers were the most terrifying force in World War II, but the Greeks knew better. There was a monster far more horrific, a traitor from their own nation. Even German SS officers shuddered at this man's cruelty. Meet Georgios Poulos, the most hated Nazi collaborator in Greek history. This dark history began in April 1941 as the wheels of World War II rolled into the Balkan Peninsula. To secure the supply lines on Europe's southern flank before launching Operation Barbarossa, the massive invasion of the Soviet Union, Adolf Hitler ordered the German 12th Army, hundreds of thousands strong, to breach Greek territory. The Blitzkrieg attack, combined with paratrooper tactics and armored divisions, swiftly crippled the combined defenses of the Greek and Allied forces. Within weeks, strategic cities from Thessaloniki to the capital, Athens, fell to the Axis occupying forces. This fall marked the beginning of a brutal era of military occupation, where the people of Greece faced not only a severe famine, but also a repressive regime that ruled through terror and fear. Amidst the pressure and suffering under the oppressor's grip, the seeds of popular Greek resistance grew rapidly from the mountains to remote villages. Guerrilla militia movements, particularly the left-wing resistance group ELAS, Greek People's Liberation Army, aggressively launched sabotage operations against German logistics routes and military posts. Secret support from villagers, who provided food, shelter, and intelligence, turned entire rural communities into targets for collective, ruthless reprisal by Nazi troops. To suppress the expanding resistance, while their military resources were increasingly stretched on the Eastern Front, the German authorities realized they could no longer rely solely on their own troops to control the hard-to-reach hinterlands. As a strategic response to their frustration with guerrilla warfare, the Nazi military began exploiting internal Greek political divisions by recruiting local collaborators. They utilized radical figures, ambitious former officers, and fanatical anti-communist groups as intelligence tools, resistance hunters, and executors of anti-partisan operations. By forming volunteer military units armed with German weapons, the occupying forces successfully threw fuel onto the fire of Greek civil strife. This strategic move paved the way for the emergence of brutal defectors like Georgios Poulos, who did not hesitate to take up arms against his own people in exchange for power and protection under the Nazi flag. Under the dark shadow of the 1941 Nazi occupation, a man with a bloody ambition emerged to carve out one of the blackest chapters in Greek history. He was Georgios Poulos, a former lieutenant colonel in the Greek army whose military career was ruined following his involvement in a failed 1935 coup. Driven by a deep-seated hatred of communism and a thirst for power, Poulos saw the invading Germans not as enemies, but as a stepping stone. After his political efforts to establish a fascist political party were rejected and disbanded by the Nazis for being deemed dangerous, Poulos did not give up. Instead, he demeaned himself to become a secret informant for German military intelligence, leaking the names of his fellow Greeks to be arrested and executed. Through his blind allegiance to the swastika, Poulos finally succeeded in May 1943 in convincing the Wehrmacht High Command to grant him authority over an armed militia. Thus, the Poulos Verband was born, a volunteer battalion numbering around 300 men. This force was far from an honorable military unit. It was a blend of former convicts, dismissed soldiers, opportunistic criminals, and impoverished individuals desperate from hunger who were enticed by guaranteed food, wages, and Nazi protection. Under Poulos's command, and aided by propaganda from his wife, who recruited new members, the unit officially wore German military uniforms and was directly absorbed into the SS Secret Service, Sicherheitsdienst, to act as bloodhounds hunting local guerrilla movements. Making the city of Ptolemida and the region of Western Macedonia its main stronghold, the Poulos Verband grew into a terrifying monster to its own people. Instead of purely fighting resistance fighters in the mountains, Poulos's force inflicted merciless terror upon innocent civilians. They raided village after village, looting jewelry, seizing livestock, burning homes, and committing acts of rape and summary mass executions. In a short span of time, the name Georgios Poulos and his unit became the most feared symbol of treason, with the atrocities they inflicted on their fellow Greeks often exceeding the brutality of the Nazi soldiers themselves. Under the shadow of Nazi rule in northern Greece, Colonel Georgios Poulos and his Poulos Verband unit carved out one of the bloodiest chapters in the history of the Axis occupation. This collaborator unit, wearing German uniforms despite their Greek blood, waged a systematic campaign of terror across the region of Western Macedonia. Without mercy, they applied collective punishment tactics against villages suspected of harboring or supporting Elas guerrilla fighters. Every armed operation was followed by the same pattern of brutality: interrogation under torture, plundering of civilian property, sexual assault of local women, and on-the-spot executions without judicial process for anyone deemed defiant. The peak of the Poulos Verband's savagery was written in red ink on September 2, 1944, in the village of Georgios, near Thessaloniki. Coordinating with a German unit under the command of war criminal Fritz Schubert, Poulos's troops surrounded the village following a guerrilla attack in the surrounding area. In a horrific act of reprisal, approximately 150 innocent civilians, mostly women and children, were brutally massacred. Many victims were forced into and locked inside barns and village buildings that were subsequently set ablaze, leaving them to burn alive amid heartbreaking screams. Barely 2 weeks after the Georgios tragedy, the Poulos Verband sowed death once again in the town of Giannitsa on September 14, 1944. Around 120 civilians were subjected to mass execution under the strict supervision of Poulos's force. Eyewitnesses described a horrifying scene where men were forced to dig their own graves before being shot dead, while homes were torched and sexual violence ran rampant. This series of massacres solidified the Poulos Verband's reputation as a unit whose cruelty often transcended the boundaries of humanity, leaving deep trauma and a gripping legacy of fear in the hearts of the Greek people throughout the occupation. When the tide of World War II turned and the defeat of Nazi Germany became inevitable in the autumn of 1944, German occupation forces began a massive retreat from the Balkan Peninsula. However, for Georgios Poulos and the members of the Poulos Verband battalion, there was no surrender and no place to hide in the homeland they had betrayed. Realizing the burning fury of the Greek populace and the threat of execution by Elas resistance fighters, Poulos chose to flee alongside the remnants of the retreating Wehrmacht through Yugoslavia until reaching Austria. There, amidst the ruins of the dying Third Reich, Poulos and his followers continued to fight for Nazi Germany against communist partisans until the final days of the conflict in Europe in May 1945.
Poulos's escape and blind devotion to Adolf Hitler's regime finally reached its end when he, along with the remnants of his unit, was captured by the U.S. 7th Army. Given the magnitude of the war crimes he committed in Greece, the U.S. military did not grant him asylum. Instead, they extradited and handed Poulos back to Greek government authorities to undergo legal proceedings. Before a special military court in Athens, Poulos was confronted with a mountain of evidence showing his cruelty, charges of high treason against the state, and illegal collaboration with Nazi occupation forces that had taken the lives of hundreds of innocent civilians. The trial, which drew widespread public attention, ultimately found Georgios Poulos guilty of all major charges and sentenced him to death. On June 11, 1949, at around 60 years of age, Poulos was brought before a firing squad in Athens to face his execution. The crack of gunfire that morning brought a tragic close to the life of an officer who chose the path of treason, leaving the name Georgios Poulos etched in the pages of Greek history, not as a hero, but as one of the most hated and terrifying symbols of collaboration ever born out of war. History may record Georgios Poulos as Greece's greatest traitor. But how many other Pouloses in this world escaped the grip of justice? If you felt this story opened your eyes to the dark side of World War II, hit the like button and share this video. See you in the next episode.